Alright, so once we derive the derivatives of xi and eta with respect to x and y, now let us obtain the derivatives of the shape functions ni's and nj's with respect to x and y in terms of the derivatives of the corresponding shape function in the master element with respect to xi and eta. So, in this regard, let us go back and look at the set of equations here. So, this we have already written. So, equation number 3, if we say, now this says that nix, the derivative of ni is equal to the derivative of ni hat with respect to xi, derivative of xi with respect to x plus derivative of ni with respect to eta into derivative of eta with respect to x. So, these two set of equations let us rewrite in the matrix form. So, we are writing ni x, ni y is equal to the matrix times the derivative of ni hat with respect to xi, the derivative of ni hat with respect to eta. Alright, let us fill it in. So, this says that nix is ni comma xi, xi comma x. So, this will be del xi del x plus del ni del eta into del eta del x. So, that completes the first equation of set of equation 3. Similarly, for ni y we write ni comma xi, ni hat comma xi into del xi del y, and here it will be del eta, it is del eta del y. Alright. Now, if I look at this matrix is basically the transpose, this is basically the transpose of this matrix. Alright. And what about this matrix with respect to this one? They are identical. So, this basically is, if you remember, this is the Jacobian inverse. So, this is Jacobian inverse. So, then if I take the transpose, so this matrix is going to be Jacobian matrix and inverse transpose. So, we represent as minus t. So, inverse transpose, right. So, we already have obtained the Jacobian in the earlier slide. So, we just now have to invert it, take the transpose of it and multiply, pre-multiply with the derivatives of the shape functions with respect to xi and eta. We already have derived the shape functions in the master element, that those are in terms of xi and eta, that we can easily take the derivative with respect to xi and eta. So, this allows us to find out the derivatives of the shape function ni's and nj's in the physical element, because these are all in terms of x and y. So, get the derivatives of the shape function in the physical element. So, if I put a value of xi p, eta p and evaluate these derivatives in the master element, and the same for all these 4 entries in the Jacobian matrix. So, we will be evaluating the derivatives of those shape functions in the physical element. So, this x p and y p basically the corresponding point xi p eta p in the master element. So, now we know how to evaluate the derivatives of the shape function in the physical element. Now, if I look at this vector is nothing but gradient of ni, okay, gradient of ni. This is basically containing del ni del x and del ni del y. Alright. So, these are the, so this is gradient of ni, and whereas this one you see the gradient of ni hats, but this is with respect to xi and eta. Alright. So, let us denote that with so this is gradient, but with respect to xi eta. So, we have to differentiate it. So, let us put as prime, okay, of gradient of ni hat. So, this gradient is with respect to xi eta, this is with respect to xy. Alright. So, now we write gradient of ni is equal to Jacobian inverse transpose times the gradient of ni hat. Alright. So, this is what we got. So, let us put as 5. Alright. So, now we have obtained the derivatives of the shape function in the master element corresponding to a particular point in the we have obtained the derivatives of the shape function in the physical element corresponding to a particular point in the master element. Alright, that is what we need to evaluate the stiffness entries. Alright. So, if I write Kij, now what are the other terms left out? So, Kij in element E, we have integration over element E lambda 0 times gradient of ni, right, dot. So, let us put a bar here so that it represents the vector, alright. So, gradient of ni dot gradient of nj, alright, dA. Why? Because if I take the dot product of this, that refers to del ni del x del nj del x plus del ni del y del nj del y. Alright. So, this is the term that we had. So, that we have written as this, or in the matrix form if we write. So, we can erase this dot product and write gradient of ni transpose gradient of ni. So, that takes the dot product. Alright. So, now we have calculated these guys at a particular point in the master element, okay, using equation 5. Now, let us see how we can relate this area which is in physical element to a corresponding area in the master element. So, in order to do that, first what we will do, we will consider a point in the master element, say P, alright. So, the point P, and we take two lengths d xi and d eta, alright. The two sides of a given rectangle of length d xi and d eta, okay. So, since these are parallel to xi and eta, so the area in the master element, if I term it as dA hat, so that is d xi into d eta, right. Similarly, the point P which is in this master element, let us find out the corresponding point following the map in the physical element. So, let us say the physical point is here, alright, and let us point this, mark it as P prime, alright. Now, this P prime we can denote by the position vector, say r. Now, if we map this length d xi, okay, associated with point P, okay, if we map this, say we get a vector Okay, I am drawing some exaggerated view of it. So, let us say that vector is u bar. Okay. So, we have mapped d xi length started from P, okay, to the physical element, and we get u bar started from P prime. Similarly, let us map d eta and we got a vector, suppose V, alright. Just understand that u and V, these two vectors may not be orthogonal, whereas d xi d eta, they are parallel to xi and eta and are orthogonal or perpendicular. Now the area, okay, if I denote as dA, now we have to relate this dA with dA hat, alright. So, u bar has been mapped from d xi and v bar has been mapped from d eta, alright. Now, what is u bar? U bar is basically the change in the position vector r due to the change in xi d xi, alright. So, we can say, if I write r, r is basically the coordinate, let us write as the coordinate x, unit vector I plus coordinate y, unit vector j. So, the vector r we have represented with x and y, this is a coordinate of point P prime, alright. Now, as I said, u bar is basically the change in r, alright, because of the change in xi. So, u bar we can write as del r del xi d xi, alright, because along d xi only xi is changing, there is no change in eta, whereas r is a function of both x and y each of them are function of xi and eta, alright. So, now del r del xi, if I expand, so I write del x del xi I plus del y del xi j into d xi, alright, because r is xi plus yj. Similarly, v we can write as del r del eta d eta, and that is written as del x del eta I plus del y del eta j d eta. So, I and j are the unit vectors here along x and y, alright. Now, once we know u and v, we can find out the area dA in the physical element by taking u cross v, and to find out the magnitude, let us take the dot product of that with respect to the unit vector k, alright. I cross j is basically the k. So, if I take the u cross v, so what is that? U cross v, I cross j, that gives k, and j cross I, that gives minus k. So, what we are getting? We are getting del x del xi del y del eta minus del y del xi del x del eta, alright, and we have a unit vector k. Now, k dot k, that yields 1 and we are left out with d xi d eta, these two terms, right. Now, what is this value? This is basically, if you go back and look at the Jacobian matrix, this is basically the determinant of the Jacobian, alright, corresponding to this element. So, determinant of the Jacobian times d xi d eta. So, we can write this as determinant of the Jacobian times dA hat. So, now we have related the elemental area dA in the physical element with respect to the corresponding elemental area in the master element, alright. So now all the ingredients are ready to calculate the to conduct the numerical integration. Let us go ahead and put this entity. So let us say Kij E at element E is basically the integration of our element E. We get lambda 0, alright, into gradient of Ni dot gradient of Nj, right, gradient of Ni, gradient of Nj into dA, right. So this we have already found out how to calculate at a given point xi p eta p in the master element. dA has been related to the corresponding area in the master element using determinant of Jacobian times dA hat. Now what about lambda? Lambda, it may be constant, it may not be a constant, the conductivity may vary inside the domain. So in that case lambda 0 will be given in terms of the physical coordinate x and y. So that we have to evaluate at a particular point in the master element. So we can write lambda 0, x we will use the map, alright. So we will write this as Ni hat xi e, where I goes from 1 to 3. So that is how we represented x, and similarly for y we will write Ni hat yi e, I goes from 1 to 3. So if we remember, xi and yi is basically the coordinates of the vertices of the triangle. So those are constants, whereas ni's are basically functions of xi and eta. So if we plug the values of xi p and eta p, we will get the corresponding x and y, and from which you can evaluate the value of lambda 0 at a given Gauss point. So now let us put them together. So we write Kij in element E is equal to A hat. Now we are writing it in the master element. Lambda 0 has been evaluated at a given point xi p eta p, at any point xi p eta p, then gradient of Ni dot gradient of Nj, those are also calculated at any given point xi and eta. Then we have determinant of j that corresponds to this particular element times dA hat, alright. So Jacobian can also be a function of xi and eta, as we will see later. So this whole thing, if I refer as xi and eta, the integrand is referred as psi x xi comma eta, then how do we do the numerical integration? We say that evaluate this integrand at the Gauss points or at the xi p eta p, okay, multiply it with the associated weight Wp and sum over all the Gauss points. So the Gauss point number of Gauss points say Ngp, alright. So evaluate the psi, the integrand at certain Gauss points, at certain points in the master element, multiply with the corresponding weight Wp and do it for all the Gauss points and sum it over all the Gauss points. So that is how we calculate Kij numerically. Now similarly, if I go ahead and put Fie is integration over that particular element, physical element AE. We have G that can be a function of x and y, the source term that can depend on x and y, times Ni, okay, that is in x and y coordinate, times dA. So this is the first term in the force vector. There is another term associated with the Neumann boundary that we will take care later. So let us discuss about the first term. Now how do we evaluate numerically? Again we will use the same map. We say we will evaluate x at certain points by using xi ni hat xie nie, alright. Then y we will write yi e ni hat. Okay. This helps us to evaluate the function g at different points in the master element, alright, because ni's are function of xi and eta. Ni will be same as ni hat, because that is how we define the hat functions, alright, and dA will again we will use the determinant of Jacobian times dA hat. So, now the integral will over be the master element a hat, fine. So, now this term let us denote as kappa. So, kappa it can be a function of xi and eta, alright. So, to calculate this numerically we will do the same thing, we will calculate each of, so we will calculate kappa at particular point xi p and eta p, multiply with the corresponding weight Wp and sum it over all the cost points p equal to 1 to ngp, alright. So, this is how we can calculate the entries in the stiffness matrix and the first part of the force vector. Now, let us go ahead and see the contribution of the Neumann boundary, how we can calculate numerically, okay, not by hand, we need to implement in a computer. So, we need to follow the same procedure, alright. So, to demonstrate the procedure to calculate the contribution of the Neumann boundary for a given element, I have taken a physical element E, okay, and the three sides of the element E does not have Neumann boundary, only one side of element E is subjected to Neumann boundary condition, or you can say this side of the element is coinciding with the Neumann boundary. Other two boundaries may lie with the Dirichlet boundary, or maybe they are internal boundaries. Now if we move ahead and look at the second part of the force entry, so you can go back and check FIE is basically minus Qn into Ni ds integrated over only the part of the element that has an intersection with Neumann boundary, alright. Now, in this case we have only one side where the Neumann boundary condition is specified. So, basically we have to integrate only over side 1 2. Now, just please note that these numbers given for element E are local numbers, alright, and these i's are also local numbers, because we are calculating the element force vector. So, now if I write F1E, what is F1E? F1E is integration over the side of AE along 1 2, okay, Qn times N1 ds, alright. So, this is the first entry in the element force vector contributed by the Neumann boundary. Then what about the second entry? F2E is equal to minus similarly del AE along 1 to Qn times N2 ds, alright, because only three shape functions are non-zero here. So, we will be having three entries in here. So, similarly del A E along 1 2 we have Qn N3 ds, alright. Now, if you look at the shape functions of the physical element, we will see that N3 is 1 at this point at node 3, but 0 along 1 2, alright. So, if since we are integrating along 1 2 and in this side n3 is 0. So, the contribution from this part is 0 because n3 is 0 along that boundary. So, only the non-zero thing will be F1e and F2e. Now, one correction you make, this is F1e you put, let us say, with n, because this is the Neumann part that has to be added with F1. Okay, this is not F1 by itself or F2 by itself. Okay, this is only the contribution from the Neumann boundary. Now, how to calculate this thing numerically? So, in order to do that, we will map this physical line element to the corresponding master element in the 1D that you have already encountered. The master element in 1D case, the coordinate say xi bar. Xi bar has been used just to distinguish it from the xi and eta that we have used in the 2-dimensional element. So, xi bar is, in this case, is the coordinate or natural coordinate varying from -1 to 1, and these are the hat functions in the corresponding master element in 1D. Alright. Now, one interesting part is, if we look at the phi 1, or if I look at n1 in E, n1 in E along the boundary 1 2 varies like this, 1 at node 1 and 0 at node 2, and varies linearly. So, this is n1 in element E because 1 2 3 are local numbers. Similarly, if we draw the n2, n2 is 1 here at node 2, varies linearly through the side starting from 0 at node 1. So, this is n2 E. Alright, fine. So, now let us use the map that you have already used in 1-dimensional problems. We say the coordinate at any point in the side is say x, y. Alright. So, x along 1 2 is equal to x1 e times n1 double hat plus x2 e into n2 double hat. N1 and N2 double hat has been used to distinguish it from the corresponding shape functions in the master element in case of 2D. Alright. And similarly, y is y1 e n1 double hat plus y2 e n2 double hat. Alright. And what are the definitions of n1 double hat and n2 double hat that we have seen in the 1-dimensional case? That is 1 minus xi bar by 2, and n2 double hat is 1 plus xi bar by 2. Alright. So, x and y, now we can get the value for a given point xi 1. So, if I take a point at suppose xi 1 bar, using this map I can find out the corresponding x1 and x2, so which will be on that line 1 2. Alright. Now, what else we need? We need to find out qn at a given xy, right. So, for a given point xi 1 we can find the corresponding point xy in the physical element, so that we can use to find out qn. So, we can write qn at a given point xy, alright, as qn x as a function of xi bar comma y as a function of xi bar. So, for a given xi bar I can evaluate qn, alright. And what else? Now, n1 and n2 in the physical element, they are same as n1 double hat and n2 double hat respectively. So, we will be just substituting them, alright, and now they are function of xi bar only. But what about ds? So, ds we need to find out. So, we can say if we have a small length d xi in the master element, what is the corresponding length in the physical element. So the corresponding length in the physical element is ds, alright, and here the length is say dxi bar. So we have to relate ds with dxi bar. So how can we do that? Now ds we can use, so ds we can write as dx square plus dy square, and dx square we will write as dx dxi bar whole square plus dy dxi bar whole square into dxi bar, alright. So now dx dxi we know, from this relation we can find out dx dxi. And what is dx dxi bar? So if we put the values of n1 and n2 hat, so dx dxi bar, this is minus half for n1, and for this n2 we have plus half. So we get x2 minus x1 by 2. So it gives us x, since it is a square, so there will be no problem, but let us say x2e minus x1e by 2 square plus what is dy dxi bar. Similarly it will be y2e minus y1e by 2 square. So we have a square root here, so we write as half into dxi bar. Now what is this? This is basically the half the length of the side 1 2 in element E. So we will write the HE 1 2 length of the side of element E along 1 2 divided by 2 dxi bar. So we got the relation between dxi bar and ds. So now let us evaluate f1n quickly. f1n Neumann boundary part is minus integration qn, that we know in terms of xi bar, that we have discussed. n1 will be substituted by n1 double bar or n1 double hat. ds is basically h12 by 2 into dxi bar. What is the limit? Limit is minus 1 to 1, because xi bar is changing from minus 1 to 1, and we have seen this earlier in one dimensional case. So this guy, this integrand, if I put as phi, say if I put as phi, so phi n is a function of xi bar. So what we will do? We will evaluate it, we will evaluate phi n at the Gauss points. So these Gauss points corresponding to the one dimensional case. So xi bar p multiply with the corresponding weight wp and then sum it over all the Gauss points 1 to ngp, alright, and minus sign is there beforehand, so that we have to carry forward. So we are evaluating the integrand at the Gauss point p, multiplying with the weight w and summing it over all the Gauss points. Similarly f2n e I can write as minus 1 to 1, qn is the same function xi bar, we have n2 double hat into h12e by 2 into dxi bar. So this let us put as, so if I say this is 1, so let us use 1, and this is phi n 2 function of xi bar. So we will be evaluating this phi 2 n at the Gauss point xi bar p, multiply with the weight wp, and the p will be from 1 to number of Gauss points ngp, alright. So, that is how we can calculate the Neumann boundary contribution in a given element, okay, along those sides which are coinciding with the Neumann boundary, we can calculate numerically, alright, and F3n is anyway 0. But remember that for each of the elements we have to keep a note regarding the boundaries which are shared or coinciding with the Neumann boundary, and the value of the Neumann boundary, that is in this case the function qn x comma y, that we have to remember, right. So, now let us move ahead. Till now we have discussed about the linear shape functions. As you have seen in the one dimensional case, that if we use the quadratic and cubic shape functions, our convergence rate is higher. That is, if we use pth degree polynomial, then the rate of convergence is proportional to h to the power p plus 1 in case of the unknown u. Now, in order to understand the convergence, so what we do is, if we remember in the one dimensional case, there are two strategies. One is we call it H version of finite element, and the other is called P version of finite element, where H signifies the characteristic length of a given element. So, in H version what we do? We refine the elements, that is, we make the elements smaller and smaller, expecting that our approximate solution or finite element solution will approach the exact solution as we are refining the mesh. So, that is called the H version of finite element. Whereas, in P version of finite element, the degree of the shape functions are increased, expecting the rapid convergence, alright. So, in order to increase the degree of the shape function, in the two dimensional case, we have to find out what are the associated monomials that we have to add to go from linear to quadratic to cubic and so on. Regarding this, there is a guideline which is called Pascal's triangle. This triangle is basically a collection of monomials in a particular order. So, if you look at each of the rows, in each of the row the degree of the monomial is same. So, the second row, all the monomials are of degree 1, second all the monomials are of degree 2 and so on. Now, as we have already seen that for linear case we have considered only constant term, linear xi and eta terms. So, this picture shows that if we want to go and add the higher orders, so we have to follow some strategy. So, in this case, if we want to do it for p equal to 2, we have to consider all these monomials that are in and above the rows corresponding to p equal to 2. So, it means for phi I corresponding to p equal to 2, we have to consider constant term, that is the top part, then we have to consider the linear terms, that is in the second row, and the quadratic terms, that is in the third row, alright. We cannot miss any of the terms. Similarly, if we have to construct the polynomials for p equal to 3, then we have to consider all the terms which are above the fourth row, in and above the fourth row. So, that is, we have to consider the constant term, linear terms, quadratic terms and all the cubic terms, alright, and so on. Now, in this case, as you see, as you go and increase the order of the polynomial, we have more and more number of terms. Now, the thing is, if we miss any of the terms, suppose for p equal to 2, if we miss the term eta in the polynomial, if we do not consider the term eta, then in that case we can go ahead and do the simulation, but we will see that it will affect the rate of convergence, and in some case it may not converge at all. So that is why we need to stick to this strategy, and this has been designed in order to make the shape functions complete. Now as you see, in a given row we have p plus 1 number of terms. Say if we go to pth degree polynomial, then we have in that row we have p plus 1 number of terms, because for quadratic we have 3 terms in that row. For p equal to 3 we have 4 terms in that row. So for pth degree polynomial we will be having p plus 1 number of terms. So if we add all the terms from starting from 1 to p plus 1, so we will be having total p plus 1 into p plus 2 by 2 number of terms. So that is why the total number of terms for pth degree polynomial NP will be p plus 1 into p plus 2 by 2. So if we put p equal to 2, we see 3 into 4 divided by 2, that is 6. So we will be having 6 terms for quadratic shape functions. Now if we look at p equal to 2, we have 6 monomials, but associated with these 6 monomials we have 6 coefficients, unknown coefficients. So in order to find out these unknown coefficients, we have to define the phi i's at least 6 points in a given element. Alright. So if we specify the value of phi I at 6 point in a given element, then we can uniquely find out all these coefficients, and that will be the definition of phi I. So that will give us 6 equations to solve for, but instead of solving increasing number of equations, we can directly construct these shape functions just by looking at the points where these shape functions are 0. That is, using the Kronecker delta property of these phi i's, we can easily construct these shape functions. So now let us go ahead and construct them for p equal to 1, 2 and 3. So we have shown the master element here. So 1 corresponds the coordinate 0, 0, 2 the coordinate is 1, 0, and for 3 the coordinate is 0, 1. Now in this case we are defining the shape function in the master element. The reason is, as we have already seen, the values of the shape functions as well as the derivatives of the shape functions in the physical element can be calculated from the values of the shape functions and their derivatives in the master element using the Jacobian. So we don't need to define the shape functions in the physical element. So that's why from now onwards we will always define the shape functions in the master element. So for p equal to 1, the definition of the shape function phi I, or since it is in the master element, let us use the Ni. So Ni hat is basically comprising of a0 plus a1 xi plus a2 eta. Now in order to find out these 3 coefficients, we took 3 points, that is the 3 vertices of the element as nodes, and we define the value of each of the phi i's at these 3 nodes, and we got 3 equations to solve for. So without doing that, we can construct these Ni's just simply looking at the construction of the shape functions. Now let us look at n1 hat. n1 hat is 1 at node 1 and 0 along the line 2, 3. Actually the definition of n1 is that it has to be 0 in point 2 and point 3, that is node 2 and node 3. But since the shape function is linear, and so it has to be linear in along 2, 3 also, and if we define the value of that linear function as 0 at both the points, so it will be 0 throughout the line. So if we follow that, so along that line xi plus eta minus 1 equal to 0, our shape function n1 will be 0. So our shape function n1 will be c1 times xi plus eta minus 1. Alright. Why? Because it has to be 0 along the line 2 3, but it has to be having the value 1 at node 1. So, if I put that constraint, the C1 times xi equal to 0, eta equal to 0, we will be having this as 1. Alright. So, that yields C1 as minus 1. So, then N1 becomes 1 minus xi minus eta. Alright. So, likewise we can define N2 hat. N2 hat has to be 1 at node 2 and 0 along the line 1 3. And what is the equation of line 1 3? Xi equal to 0. So, we will write C2 times xi minus 0. Now, this has to be 1 at xi equal to 1, eta equal to 0. So, that yields C2 as 1. So, we will left out with xi. Similarly, N3 will be eta. So, you can easily verify it will be eta. Why? Because at node 3 N3 is 1 and along 1 2 N3 is 0. And these 3 shape functions we have already used while mapping, geometry mapping. Alright. Now, let us follow the same strategy and obtain the shape functions for p equal to 2. Now, for p equal to 2, so let us p equal to 2, the definition of Ni hat contains 6 terms we have seen from the Pascal's triangle. Those are A0 plus A1 xi plus A2 eta plus A3 xi square, A4 xi eta plus A5 eta square. So, starting from A0 to A5 we have 6 unknowns. So, we have to define the value of Ni hat at 6 points on the element. So, apart from the vertices 1, 2 and 3, we have taken the midpoints of each of the sides, that is 4, 5 and 6. So, these are the midpoints of each of the sides. Alright. So, in this case now we have 6 nodes where the phi I or Ni will be defined. Now, how to calculate these coefficients? Either we can use the definition and go ahead construct the 6 equations and obtain the 6 coefficients, or we can look at the Kronecker delta property and derive the shape functions. Now, let us see about N1 hat. So, N1 hat for p equal to 2. N1 hat for p equal to 2 will be 1 at node 1 and except node 1 at all other nodes this is 0. Alright. So, it has to be 0 along the line xi plus eta minus 1 equal to 0, and it has to be 0 along the line joining 4 and 6. And what is the equation of that? The equation of that straight line will be xi plus eta minus half is 0. So, we can construct N1 hat as a product of xi plus eta minus 1 into xi plus eta minus half. Alright. Now, in order to ensure that it is 1 at node 1 which is having coordinate 0 0. So, what we do? We multiply with the coefficient C1. Now, to find out C1 we put xi equal to 0, eta equal to 0. So, that yields C1 into minus 1 into minus half is equal to 1. So, that yields C1 as 2. Alright. So, 2 times xi plus eta minus 1 into xi plus eta minus half, that is the definition of N1. Now, let us construct N2 hat. N2 hat is 1 at node 2 and 0 at all other nodes. So, N2 is 0 along the line 1 6 3 and along the line 4 5. Alright. So, N2 I can write the definition of this first one is xi equal to 0 this line, the second one is xi equal to half. So, it is xi minus half into C2. Alright. Now, similarly C2, so what is the point here? The coordinate is 1 0. So, we put xi equal to 1, eta equal to 0. So, what is the definition of that? So, C2 into at xi is equal to 1, eta equal to 0, this is 1 and this is minus half, sorry this is plus half. So, that makes it 1. So, this renders C2 as 2. Alright. Similarly, N3 I can say N3 is C3 into, look at N3, N3 is 1 here and 0 along this edge and along this line. So, C3 into eta equal to 0 and eta equal to half, these are the two straight lines. Similarly, if I put C3, if I put the coordinate of node 3, that is 0 comma 1, so we get 1 into half is equal to 1. So, that renders C3 as 2. Similarly, N4 we can go and construct this. N4 is 1 here and is 0 along this line and this line. So, this gives us xi minus 0 into xi plus eta minus 1 into C4. Alright. So, if we put C4, now at coordinate of point 4 is half comma 0. So, if we put xi equal to half, then we have half eta 0. So, this is minus 1. So, this yields 1. So, we have minus 4. So, C4 has to be minus 4. Similarly, N5 is 1 here and 0 along these two sides. Alright. So, that gives us xi minus 0 and another side is eta minus 0 times C5. Now, what is C5? C5, what is the coordinate of this one? This is half comma half. So, this will be then 4. And finally, N6 if we construct, so this is C6 into, this is at node 6 it is 1 and along this horizontal line and this xi plus eta equal to 1 this side it is 0. So, that yields eta minus 0 into xi plus eta minus 1. So, that renders C6 and what is the coordinate of 6? 0 half. So, if I put eta equal to half, xi equal to 0, this is minus half is equal to 1. So, that renders C6 as minus 4. So, that is how, looking at the definition of these NIs, we can construct the shape functions very easily for p equal to 2. So, now let us one thing, that in this case, since we have what is u, the unknown in this element, unknown in this element ranges from alpha 1 e n nie, I ranging from 1 to 6, as there are 6 nodes, alright, or there are 6 non-zero phi i's or ni's in this element. So, u will be the linear combination of all these ni's. So, what is the size of the element stiffness matrix? In this case, it will be 6 by 6, and similarly the element force vector, the size will be 6 by 1, because there are 6 candidates for wi's, that is ni's, and there are 6 alpha i's. So, that renders ke as 6 by 6 and fe as 6 by 1.